Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, Lore Dude, who... Did I take my bill this morning? Yeah, I did. I think I did. Sorry. I need to keep track of this stuff better. I'm still taking my antibiotics for the ear situation. I don't know if I ever told you guys, I did end up going to the doctor and getting the ears looked at. I did have an ear infection in both ears. That's why I don't have my headphones in today, and haven't basically all week. I actually had to run out and buy some speakers so I could still do my job. And it was like $400. No, it was $500 total. It was about like $320 just for the meds, and then of course, like money for the visit and money for the exams, all that fun stuff. So that was nice. But I am doing better. Like, I'm not well yet. I still have some swelling going on, and I still have some trouble hearing, and I still have bills to take, so, still working on that. So for anybody who cares, that's the health update. What else? I'm still working, still absolutely plowing my way through YouTubes. I think I've talked about this before. I've been getting an average of 2 to 5 episodes recorded a day. I haven't gone above 5 yet. It's very difficult to get 5 episodes recorded in a day. That's extremely unlikely in most circumstances. So I'm just still doing everything I can. I'm actually basically past that point now, and now I'm at the point of pushing through games. So I'm doing the actual Friday ruminations now, which at the moment I'm staring at a giant bundle of massively large JRPGs. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But I did take a break after I finished the television stuff to work on the Minonation stuff. So I'm now actually done with Star Wars Clone Wars, the Clone Wars. So that's done now. I've recorded all those episodes. I don't actually have much else to say. I'm slamming YouTube. That's my job. So we had a vote that's been going up for like 3 weeks now. A lot of people have weighed in on this one. Thank you very, very much, Wanta. As ever, much appreciate that Twitch Prime support. And I will put that towards... I didn't have the thing up. Hang on. I'll put that towards RimWorld as soon as I pull it up. There it is. Okay. I've actually been more or less deliberately not updating the site with this stuff yet, because I've been focusing on YouTube. Well, I changed my mind, Hazardous. Because an absolutely enormous... Like, we have a total of 233 votes in. I think that's pretty much everyone. And I was willing to let it keep going because it was extremely close for quite a while. But one of the answers has basically gotten ahead of the others, and that's lore runs. So, for those of you curious, we're officially cutting off that vote. We're going to be doing lore runs first, and I already know which ones we'll be doing first, so yay. I actually have another vote, that I want you guys to start voting on. Again, I'm going to put this out way out in advance so that people have a chance to... vote on it. Hang on a second. Battle Programmer. Ooh. Thank you very, very much, Battle Programmer. As ever, I appreciate your support and your puns. So, here is the next one. Oh my god. Yeah, I think 90 trillion thousand billion people have commented on the plain mask thing, Eshla, which is funny. I could respond to that, but I don't see the need to because everyone thinks I'm wrong. So, moving on. Hi, thank you very, very much, MunchDK. As ever, I really, really appreciate those Tier 1 subs. Would you like to put that sub towards anything in particular? So, that's the new vote. That is about Kingdom Hearts 3, the premiere run for Kingdom Hearts 3, which is already funded. The real question for that is very simple. Do you want to do the Kingdom Hearts 3 premiere run the day it comes out, or actually more accurately the day after it comes out, because I have to have a physical package shipped to me? Or do you want us to delay it a week and then go ahead and do the premiere run? So make sure you get your votes in on that. That vote's going to be up for probably about 2 weeks, maybe 3, depending on how many people weigh in and how close it is. Because then we're going to have to schedule things around and change things around. And the sooner I know, the better. That's why we're just going ahead and opening up that vote now. So, vote. Well, if you look at the website, MunchDK, you will have all the answers. What else? I'm going to see Wreck-It Ralph 2 tonight, so that's awesome. I am actually rather looking forward to that. I really enjoyed Wreck-It Ralph 1. Call me a weirdo. And I guess that's it. That's all I know. I did end up seeing Harry Potter and the Beasts of the Fantastical Grindelwald, whatever the hell it is, last week. And you need to, like, what you should do, SJ? What you should do, SJ, is you should do, like, start with, like, Lore has a website, period. And then the next time it comes up, do a question mark. Oh. And then do a second question mark, and then a third question mark, and just escalate it, right? Thank you very, very much, Kai Snow, and thank you very, very much, Tayonas. Tayonas, excuse me, as ever. I do much appreciate that continued subs and support. It has been super helpful, especially since, as some of you know, I'm moving soon, and I'm going to be... Well, literally no matter what, my bills are going up. It's impossible for them not to. So it's awesome and appreciated. Thank you. Now, I've heard it, Blue Elf. Now, that being said, really quick, Kai Snow and Tyonis, what would you like to put your subs towards? Who stayed in for Black Friday? I was working. I was recording. I don't remember what I was working on Friday. It's all blurring together so hard. I've played like 5 games in the last week, and it's just... Sekiro, you got it. So we'll jot that down. Kai Snow, Sekiro. Okay, Spokov. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does, but I am also... So for those of you not aware, we are still doing the Imperium Mainliner project. Bragwin started working on that. Eingrad started doing work on that. Carbon starting doing work on that. So you guys are absolutely welcome to join us on that. I encourage you to if you care. If you don't, that's totally cool too. I haven't had time to do any of the Cordons project last week because I really have been just slamming this. Like... You can ask some people, like, I've even the time which I usually take off, I've been using to get work done. Because usually what I do is I basically stop working. Oh, no. This is going to be going for a bit here. I'm not creative enough to come up with any poses, sorry. I think that's everything. Yep, we're good. It is legitimately encouraging, Spokov. I get negativity flung at me and mud flung at me every day of my life, so helps to balance things out. Thank you guys. Thank you very, very much. Who did that? That was Battle Programmer, wasn't it? Thank you, Battle Programmer. You suck. I appreciate it very, very much. If you would like to decide, so do you want to decide where that goes to, or do you want the people you gifted it to decide where that goes to? Up to you. That's how I usually do those gift sub things. Movie. I was talking about Harry Potter. So I think it was all right. I mean, Third and I both enjoyed it, although funnily enough, we both enjoyed it differently. Well, that is the idea, Adam, but I sincerely doubt they're going to do an RDR3 at this point. Oh, come on! Thank you very, very much, Kai Snow. Once again, same question. Would you like to decide, or would you like Corrales to decide? Now, Battle Programmer says he wants people to... So, Valvedrix, Mortai 93, Retu 81, Giramata, Megaten 23... What would you like to put those subs towards? And Corrales, you also get to choose, thanks to Kai Snow. Thank you very, very much, Faldaris. So Faldaris, excuse me, put that towards Dying Light. which is awesome because I noticed like nobody's donating for that one. Um, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Okay, Corrales puts it towards... Actually, that's... Pathfinder, Kingmaker. Okay. I liked it. Third and I both liked the film. There were definitely bad parts. The editing was frankly awful. And there were several significantly large chunks of the script, which I felt like you could just pull out pages of the script and it would actually work better. It was definitely a world-building film. It cannot, by any definition, exist in a vacuum. That's kind of my thing. I like that. I like films that depend on other people around them, or other films around them in order to function. That's my shtick. I'm a continuity guy. So, I'm with it. But several of the subplots and areas were just kind of... The sexy brutal. You got it, Jonas. Thank you very, very much again. The twist... So, I'm not going to spoil, okay? No spoilers. The twist at the end... No. Didn't work for me. In fact, if anything, I felt that the earlier scene... That's all I'm going to say about that. Worked better than the actual twist. Mortai 93 puts it towards Fire Emblem. You got it. Thank you again. To Battle Programmer. Yeah, it definitely has middle movie syndrome. Again, I still enjoyed it, but I would probably enjoy it more if I was watching it and then immediately put in the third film, right? Just to go straight into the next one. I felt... okay, I'm going to go ahead and say something that's kind of been an unpopular opinion from what I've seen of reviews and whatnot. I actually thought Johnny Depp did a good job of Grindelwald. He was a really nice fit for that role. Came across as just as charismatic and deranged and yet fully self-assured as he needed to. My opinion, of course. And also, thank you very, very much, Maze W88, as ever. I do really appreciate those tier 1 subs, or those subs in general. Thank you. What would you like to put that towards? Oh, I don't know, Adam. That's a big question. I don't even know. I don't have anything off the top of my head ready for that one, so I don't know. Yeah, the guy who plays Dumbledore, whose name I can't think of, he's a good actor. He's a long-standing good actor. I can't think of his name, but he also is an excellent, excellent fit for Dumbledore, in my opinion. You got it, Maze. That's good because, well, if we don't get donations towards games, they eventually get removed from the list. Jude Law, thank you. That's it. Atelier, etc. I'm not going to spell all that right now. I know what it means. Oh, I know what you're talking about, Leander. Yeah, I don't get that either, Revenstick. Like, I get some of it, but Johnny Depp is a talented actor. The biggest problem with Johnny Depp is he usually gets typecast as the same type of role. I mean, how many roles did he have after Pirates of the Caribbean as Jack Sparrow? I mean, how many different roles did he have where it's like, okay, do the Sparrow thing. Okay. Hi, Pavemanic. So one of my favorite Harry Potter movies, well, 3 is definitely in the running. After 3, I did enjoy 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7.2 quite a bit, so color me in that group. But I think 3 really does rise towards the top of my list, especially since I went back through it with analysis mode. That was an excellent movie, in my opinion. I don't remember any of the others particularly specifically, to be honest with you, because I've only seen all of them like once, basically, in the theaters. I've seen 3 multiple times. Anyways, looking at my notes here. So, just a couple of really quick news tidbits here. We got a new Lion King trailer. Anybody you see that? It was actually a Lion King teaser, to be more accurate. So, anybody see the Lion King thing? Yeah, it looks way better than I thought it would. Like, I myself said how hesitant I was about the very idea of a Lion King live action, but looked pretty good, in my opinion. I'm with it. And, of course, they're bringing back most of the same actors, or at least the major actors. And the singer, whose name I can't think of, in order to do the opening song. New version of the opening song. Yeah, I'm with it. Well, you get the point, though, Falderas. There is a difference between live-action CGI and animated CGI. Like, the two are completely segregated categories at this point. So, I get why they call it live-action. It's because we don't really have a term for live-action CGI. Not really. Yeah, if they could have gotten Jeremy Irons, that would have been awesome. But, unfortunately, it looks like they didn't. But they have gotten some pretty decent list. Hang on, what happened with Hulkenberg? Oh, Abu. Are you talking about Abu? It's right here. Yeah, Abu Dhabi, which just ended a few minutes ago. All I'm gonna say is screw Hamilton. Kind of, yeah, Adam. But no, I didn't see Abu Dhabi. Poor Hulkenberg. There's also, they did another teaser this week for Civilization 6. Any of you catch that? I just don't like Hamilton as a person. I also have to admit, I don't enjoy his driving style. I'm not saying he's a bad driver, because that would be blatantly false. I'm just saying I don't enjoy his driving style. It's not enjoyable for me to watch. It's like watching Vettel drive. You know, I'm not interested. No, Hamilton doesn't drive fast. Hamilton drives very, very boring. Like, just doing nothing, doing nothing, doing nothing, doing nothing, okay. And then whenever he actually has a contestant, he basically just tries to force the situation, gets by, doing nothing, doing nothing, doing nothing. He doesn't do anything. Yeah, he drives the best car on the track. The end. Hamilton is not the best driver in that. At least, actually, that's getting a little bit more debatable. Yeah, Alonso, he's fun to watch. I'll tell you who was fun to watch. Schumacher. Or, Button. Button and Schumacher were fun to watch. In my opinion, obviously. So... Schumacher was great to watch, especially any time it rained. The man actually had some legitimate talent. There's a reason they called him the Rainmeister. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. But let's be honest with ourselves. We all know Raikkonen is actually the best driver out there. What was I saying? I've actually lost track. Now we're talking about Formula One. Right. So Civ 6 trailer. Civ 6, it's this new terrain thing. And it actually looks really cool, the idea of having to deal with volcanoes, rivers, flooding, natural disasters, and the good thing, and I like this, is they're not just negatives. Like, if it was just a challenge mode negative thing, my interest would be less. But instead, it looks like there's actual positives from each of the things, too. Like, you can turn it around or make something useful of it, or have, like, a risk-reward scenario, like with the flooding plains thing. That actually looks pretty cool. It's worth noting, I haven't played Rise and Fall yet for Civ 6, so I'm the ignorant person here giving my opinion. Tell you what, though. They get this stuff out on the Switch, because right now the Switch version of Civ 6 does not have Rise and Fall. But if they get that on the Switch, then I'll finally be able to play that, because that'll be awesome. Unfortunately, I don't have anything else to say about it. It looks cool. I'm with it. Apparently, they're adding some more scenarios, which is good. The one thing I really wanted most from Civ 6 was scenarios. Russia gets bonuses for Blizzard. I'm sorry, I thought that said Blizzard, as in the company, because I haven't been able to get away from Blizzard news, even though I've kind of walked away from Blizzard at this point, and people are still like, so what do you think about Blizzard? And it's like, I don't. I got other things to work about, or to think about. Before we get into, so I actually only have 3 news bits for today, guys. First and foremost, I would like to ask you guys a Tumblr question. Now, I just want to make something very clear. There are 2 reasons I bring Tumblr questions onto the Loreweek stream. Reason 1, someone go stab the count for me really quick, please. Reason 1 is because they're very complicated, convoluted questions that I can't just sit down and answer in text format. Either it'll be too long, or it's hard for me to take the time and basically stop whatever I'm working on to go answer the question. It's just too big of a question, right? So that's the first reason I bring Tumblr questions to the stream. The second one is far more important, though, and is really the real reason why I started doing this. Thank you, everyone, by the way. Because the second reason is I really want to hear your guys' answers for several of these questions. Oh, yeah, several times, Adam. We're past that. I want to hear what your guys' answers are. So, with that being kept in mind, question number 1 is about Mass Effect, and I figured you guys might actually have, an interest in Mass Effect. So, you have just... Oh, hey, I should get a timestamp. It just occurred to me. Also, woo, Arsenal. Yeah, I've never heard of Mass Effect. You have just been hired by Mass Effect as the mainliner for a new Mass Effect game. You're sitting down, writing it, and I'll answer you in just a second, Munch. You're sitting down, you're writing it, and you have to actually figure out how to win back the fans after Mass Effect 3 and after Andromeda. Where do you take Mass Effect? What do you do with the next game? All right, Trickster's Lab's answer is to sub. I like that answer. That's a good answer. Everyone should do that. Hang on. Trickster's Lab. RE2, you got it. Thank you very, very much, Tricksters. Much appreciated. So, Boss Baby says a remaster of Mass Effect 1. Why a remaster? Why not a remake? Honest question. What do we got here? Redone Mass Effect 3, pre-Mass Effect 1, right after Mass Effect 3. A mobile game! Yes! That'll definitely win back fans! Indoctrination Theory of Reality. Does anyone actually root for Manchester City, Paymaniac? I'm honestly curious. I've never known anyone who actually likes Manchester City. Continue ME3 on a cutoff planet with no relay contact. Okay, I'm with it. I can see some story potential there. Red game that retcons Mass Effect 3. Eingard quits. Come on, creative challenge. Retcon 3. For the record, I would not retcon 3, just to be clear. I think that would be cheating. Just honest opinion. Obviously, that's because that's the easy answer, right? You either reboot the franchise, so 3 is retconned, or you retconned 3, so it's gone. No matter which way you do, that's the easy answer of just wiping it out, right? Now, whoever said that earlier, I've already lost it, but someone said, on an isolated planet. I like that idea. Imagine a planet that was like a colony world or a trade hub or whatever, that now has nothing other than standard FTL drives. In other words, the relays are gone. So they have access to, their sector, but that's it. And even that takes a while to get from point A to point B, right? All of a sudden, the scope of Mass Effect is just shrunk massively from the entire galaxy down to a single sector. I think there's a lot of story potential there, personally. Especially dealing with the fact that this trading hub colony world suddenly has lost contact with the greater galaxy. And for anybody who knows anything about how a trade colony works, without the trade, that colony self-destructs almost immediately, so trying to actually interact with, any of the nearby races or other outposts or stations that happen to be in the area. Maybe there's a leftover remnant of one of the fleets that ended up getting left behind there, and now they're trying to make up their own militarized power, and there's so much you could do with that. So I'm going to steal that idea. And fill it with fear. Thank you very, very much, Meadfist. Meadfist says he would do it before humans at FTL and force you to choose Turian, Asario, Solarian. That's actually an interesting idea, too. Most of the ideas I hear about going before... By the way, would you like to put that towards Meadfist? And thank you. Most of the ideas I hear about going before usually involve going back to the First Contact War or about that era, right? One of the things... Really, Mike? One of the things... Doesn't have to be the same type of gameplay. That I've always found interesting is that any given person's ideas about Mass Effect usually involve humans. I'm not complaining or anything. It's just that's an interesting idea, is setting it while the humans were still locked on Earth and actually making it so that you play as the galactic community before that, you know? There's still plenty of room there to do stuff with it. Rimworld, you got it, Meatfist. You got it. That's another one I've heard several times, Eingrad. The idea of a game that follows Nihilus before Sovereign, which I admit that appeals to me, absolutely. Several people have mentioned also the idea to do something that basically isn't a main Mass Effect game, which I like the idea of, but since this is being approached from the perspective of a writer, it doesn't quite apply. I mean, I'm all in favor of niche games and stretching out with genres. It's something I preach about constantly. But main Mass Effect game. So, to explain a little bit, my prepared answer for this was actually similar to the answer that was just given, except I hadn't thought of it in the sector sense. I was thinking of it in the planetary sense. Like, you're literally, you're on Mass Effect 1, it's after Mass Effect 3, or you're on Mass Effect 1. It's a Mass Effect-style gameplay, you're on a single planet, and it's set after Mass Effect 3. But the more I think about it, the more I think expanding that to the sector level would actually work better, which just occurred to me like right now. Adam's idea is to basically redo the concept, the tone of Heart of Darkness with an Andromeda thing, which is interesting. No, see, I'm not sure I agree, Zawan. Like, I know that sounds horrible, but the whole point of this is an interesting creative challenge. Also, thank you very, very much, Larian. Ian. I want to make sure I spell everything right when I do these notes here. It's the one thing I make sure to jot down. Thank you very, very much. Jot it down for Tomb Raider. But, like, so Huthor says we have to address 3. That's exactly what my idea does. One of the main story points would be to address the fact that civilization has basically just collapsed in every functional level. Ignore the goddamn repairing of the relays thing. They're stuck and they have no idea where to go or no idea what to do. And now the galaxy is a mess as a consequence of everything that happened, and people are trying to put the pieces together. It's more or less literally a post-apocalypse. I can't believe this. I'm actually disagreeing with you guys. I guess I shouldn't say that so weirdly. I just thought more people would agree with me on this point. Like, post-Mass Effect 3 is a post-apocalypse. Boom. Destroy is canon. Did I say retconning? What did I say for retconning? I'm sorry. What did I actually... What was the sentence I just said? Because I don't mean to retcon it. I want to do the opposite of retconning it. Oh, no. Don't. Okay. So, ignoring the relay reconstruction. So in the destroy ending, they're like, hey, we did it. We destroyed, but there's tons of damage, but we're totally going to remake the relays, right? Continue forward on that. The relays don't work. Bam! Right? The relays don't actually work, or they don't work properly, or they don't have power, or whatever. There's so many dozens of ways to make it so the relays simply do not actually work. In fact, we could make it the first act argument. The first act argument. Well, no, that's true, because the relays went Nova. So let's actually rewind that. I take that idea back. I was thinking of the idea of having... Well, I was gonna say, Huthor, make it so the first thing be like... hey, let's go and repair this relay, and the first act being the attempt to repair the relay, which eventually fails. But as Takoida points out, since the relays went Nova, so we'd have to set this somewhere pretty far from a relay, which we can do. I mean, there's not that many relays in the galaxy. So, set it somewhere, say, I know this is hard to do visual, but set it somewhere like, here's where the area is, and make it so, like, the outer edge of the destruction bubble of the nearest relay was, like, right here. And so, most of, the sum of the area here is still intact, but a decent chunk of it over here has actually been affected by the devastation of it. So we would actually have planets and what's left of systems in order it just in total catastrophe, right? It just because of the nova. What did Munch just do? Oh my God! Well, congratulations, Munch. Oh my God, I can't talk today. Jesus Christ! I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. I've actually been looking into that. You got it, Munch DK. How about I just split it between both, because I have no idea how well done it is right now. But congrats again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25. Thank you very, very much, Munch DK. So let's do 12. Nah, let's do 13. Towards Kingmaker. Well, I want the hell out of that, Adam. But again, that's another thing. You know, that's exactly what my mom tells me, SJ. I'm probably working so hard. Because my brain is constantly going. Which means, for those of you who know, it's harder to sleep. I have to take Z-Quil every night at this point in order to get down. What song's playing right now, Django? See, I can't hear it. I'm on speakers, and I don't want you to over... Ah, yes, you mean the improved Morrowind music. Funnily enough, all joking aside, I do prefer my own variants mixes over the originals. But that being said, I actually basically can't play the originals on stream because of copyright. I've actually already had that problem. In fact, it's a problem I fought for several months there to be able to get my Oblivion roleplay up at all. Because the music label, who's I can't remember the name right now, just kept coming after me for the music for Oblivion's music. Anyways, it's okay. If I die of stress, I will have plenty of work done. That's the part that really matters. Now, so that's my idea. That's what I would do. Follow up on the concept. Make it look like Mass Effect 3 was a disastrous, horrible Doom thing. Several people have been talking about rebooting the game, and I kind of agree with the idea. But in my point, it would be a soft reboot, kind of like Andromeda was supposed to be, right? The status quo has been so thoroughly, utterly altered by the destruction of the relays that what is remaining is technically still the same setting, but it's been so fundamentally changed that now all the rules are different. And so, that's like I said, that's what I would do. Post-apocalypse. Consequences. Figure out how to keep going forward. That's my take on that. Victory is life. Would the PC be a pseudo-spectre? I like the idea of being able to choose species with this kind of idea. Like being able to play, I agree, Hazardous, being able to play as whatever, basically. Like, fling the door open, right? Canon color would be red. Destruction would be default. My opinion. It just makes too much sense for me for red to be the canon ending for Mass Effect 3. Like, blue? Green? You can't do anything with green. I mean, what the hell do you do? Green is the most terrifyingly bleak ending in the universe. I actually can't remember another game that has ended as bleakly as the green ending. Holy God. We are all one with the great convalescence. Green is quite literally the Borg winning. Hi, Aethel. By the way, happy Thanksgiving weekend, everyone who cares. And for everyone who doesn't, happy Thanksgiving. What about the Refuse ending? See, I thought about that, Hazardous. But the problem is, again, if we're sticking to canon without retconning, the problem is the Refuse ending isn't what it should be. It isn't, and then next time they did it the right way. Instead, it's, and then the next time, they do red, blue, or green. It's just do it again, except next time. It's not better. We're right back to red, blue, green. So. Well, I don't blame you, Takoida. But this is my idea. This is what I would do. Trying to bring Mass Effect fans back, allowing them to play a lot of races, showing the consequences of 3, show 3 in a bad light. I think this would bring a decent amount of fans back. And if it doesn't, then I have failed. But that's my idea. I also have to admit, I mean, the easy... kind of is, Django. The easy answer would be to just set it before Mass Effect 3. I mean, that's just, again, that's the easy choice. Just, there you go. Okay, so we're going to be back here. That would be cool, Adam, but that would involve making an actually good game. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I know plenty of people who like Mass Effect 3. I don't know why, but they do. Thank you very, very much, If and But. I didn't know Twitch had a Black Friday deal on bits. That's hysterical. So that's 25. Good lord. Thank you very, very much. And Mechanicus, which is a game I'm very much looking forward to playing. So thank you again. What's the VOOD for? Kingdom Hearts 3. Put simply. Here, I think I have it. There, I still have it in my paste bin. I mean, okay, so Spokoff actually asked an interesting question, which is related to Mass Effect 3, because I've said this before. Mass Effect 3 does not reduce my enjoyment of Mass Effect 1 or 2. It doesn't. And where Blizzard has been going for years now does not remove my enjoyment of Warcraft 3, or WoW, you know, Wrath up to Legion. So, yeah, no. Sorry, Leander. Yeah, I've seen several people suggest using indoctrination theory. I got to be honest, I was never a fan of indoctrination theory. Just preference, not any big reason for it. But more to the point, I also have to admit, at that point we're retconning. We're just saying, no, it never happened. I mean, it's not a full retcon, but it is still a, hey, you remember Mass Effect 3's ending? It never happened. That's what that's doing. So. Uh-oh, Remedy. I don't know what you're talking about specifically, but I guess we'll see when we get there. I think it's already been failed. Funded. God. Yeah, we'll see, Spokoff. It was all a dream. I mean, I do agree that indoctrination theory has the benefit of downgrading Reapers. I absolutely agree that that is one of the better points of it. I was one of those people who never bought into the idea that the Reapers were super god death dooms. That has never been something I've agreed with. Not since 1. Powerful? Yeah. Dangerous? Absolutely. Effortlessly sweeping the galaxy? We can't beat them conventionally! There's a reason I've been against that for so long. I know, right? I used to make the joke on my stream that we'd never actually get away from Mass Effect 3. And it's so true! By the way, this funny fact. So, you know, all this lag is Comcast. So there's 2 basic places I'm looking to move right now, right? One of those places will be a lot cheaper to live at, like by several $100s a month, and will have Comcast as the provider. One of those places will be several $100s more expensive to live at. That place will have Google Fiber. We'll see where we end up. Anyways. I don't remember what that is, Adam. Anyways, let's move on to the next question, shall we? Just really quick. This one's a Morrowind question. You guys like Morrowind, right?
Your dedication will be rewarded.
Apparently your dedication to Morrowind will be rewarded. Yeah, money, Eric. Money is the problem. If money wasn't a problem, I know exactly where I'd move, and it's neither of the 2 places on my list. What do we got here? That is correct, Vigilance. So I never actually recorded the live rumination stream of Witcher 3, so it's gone. I didn't record it locally, and Twitch doesn't save things that long, so it's nuked forever. The 2-hour whatever thing up, that's the only thing that's survived from that. Thank you very, very much for the donation, and I'll put that towards Battlefleet Gothic 2 right now. Gotta make sure I spell the name right. Am I still dropping frames? I'm just curious. Oh, right. Okay, I know what you're talking about, Adam. That could work. Yeah, no, spoke of. Right now, I have one internet provider choice. Comcast. Now, funnily enough, the place I'm living at now, which I will not be living at soon, in a few months, will actually have Google Fiber. They're actually installing Google Fiber right now. So I find that funny. I'm finally living in a place that has Google Fiber and I can't live here anymore. Anyways. Moving on. Yeah, Comcast. Let's go ahead and talk about the next question, which is Morrowind related. Like I said, Morrowind related. So, this is actually Dragon Age related. I was kind of cheating with you. The Nerevarine finds themselves in the lands of Ferelden during the beginning of the Fifth Blight. What do? Would they seek out the Grey Wardens and join forces, or would they simply seek to head home? Now, I think the most important thing to define here is exactly what point at which this is the Nerevarine. However, it's worth noting that they say the Nerevarine, not the Nerevarine Reborn, which means not the player character from Morrowind, but the actual Nerevarine, which means probably the Nerevarine from the end of his life cycle, aka after all the crap at Red Mountain happened. Well, it makes perfect sense, how it is. So what do you guys think? What would the Nerevarine do in Ferelden? Basically is what it boils down to. Personally, I have a weird feeling that the Nerevarine would seek absolute power. No, I'm kind of serious. Like, I think he would look into the situation and be like, huh, okay, and use his natural charisma, natural power to just kind of slowly build up and build up. And of course, there's this whole thing with... What are you talking about, Django? The Morrowind PC is the Nerevarine Reborn. I mean, I could look something up here really quick. Put pockets on everyone's head. I suppose that is actually a valid point, because the Nerevarine... Oh, Jesus Christ. Hang on. No, I don't want to get into this. Let's just assume it's the Morrowind PC. Hang on. I got the perfect thing for this situation. Okay. Let's assume it's the Morrowind PC. That makes things actually more difficult, because now we have to decide at which point in the story the Nerevarine PC is at. That actually gives me just a little bit of a headache. I don't know who a wizard boy is, but sure. So what do you think the Morrowind PC would do in the circumstances? What do you got? Let's just assume it's by the end. Because in order for them to be the Nerevarine Reborn, they would have to be at the end of the game, because you don't actually get named the Nerevarine Reborn by Azura until, like, very far towards the end of the main quest. So, let's just go ahead and assume it's at the end of Morrowind. You've beaten... God guy. I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name. I can think of his damn speech. What a grand and intoxicating instance. But I cannot think of his name. Bob has been defeated. And as a consequence of Bob having been put down, we now have a situation in which the Nerevarine Reborn ends up in frickin' Dragon Age. I don't know. Oh my god. So what do you guys think would happen? Nobody's actually answered my question. Oh, hang on. Harian has an answer. Find out the secrets of the joining. Do it themselves. Kill the dragon. That's true. That's true. He would probably assume she. They would probably assume they'd have to do it themselves. Well, also taking over, Adam. Don't forget. Any Elder Scrolls main character just kind of starts taking over control bit by bit. Anyways, to go back to my idea, I guess it doesn't matter. Because, see, which species are they? That's actually very relevant. Like, what if it was an Argonian, right? Actually, that's an interesting point. Django brings up a legitimately interesting point. Hi, my Hawkspawn. What's up? So, remember, I don't remember that, Plutonia. Remember that as nature, by the nature of having the corpus disease, he was immune to diseases and stuff, right? Imagine if he tried to undertake the joining and it was just straight up immune to the negative consequences of it. Or maybe immune to it in general. I don't actually know. I'm not sure. That's actually an interesting point. Would they be completely immune to the joining or just the negative consequences? I'd have to think about that. Either way, I think my Nerevarine would conquer the planet. I mean, that's kind of summarizing, but that is the goal. Start with the elves, because of course you start with the elves. Turn the elves into an actual force. March over here, take over Ferelden. March over here, take over the marches. March down here, take over Orlais. March up here, take over Tevinter. March over here, take over Kuhn. We're good. Everything's cool. I missed a few nations in there. That's what mine would do. Conquer, conquer, conquer. The real question is, of course, how much of his abilities or her abilities would transfer over. So that's another one of those interesting questions. Like, are we presuming that the abilities transfer? Or are we presuming it's just the individual? Like, basically think of it like a tier 0 situation. Imagine he conquered the world, Adam. Imagine... Damn it, Choco. Imagine for a moment if the Nerevarine ends up in Ferelden and is just a person. No special abilities, no special powers, no nothing, right? In which case, I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. They would die to the first bandit attack or darkspawn raid. The end. Exactly, Overseer. That was actually always my intent with my Nerevarine, with my Argonian. And then Oblivion came out and I had to retcon all that. Well, that's a good question, Boss Baby. It depends on how we define things, again. What is translated and what doesn't. Anytime you do any kind of cross-dimension, cross-setting thing, you have to define the rules before you can really talk about it. There's a couple of Star Wars questions here, too, but I gotta be honest, it's so hard to concentrate right now. I should get to my actual topic, which is Ubisoft. How many of you guys would like to see the Rant runner? And hopefully I'll get my words right. Actually, funny fact, there's basically no faster internet available for me, Hazardous. I have the top end planned, at least as far as upload. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Spirit of memory. The following is a direct word-for-word quote from a Ubisoft support. Don't know the individual, don't care. Hey, as has been pointed out, these loot crates are purely cosmetic. I do appreciate why players feel the way they do about them. Not a huge fan myself. However, as it was pointed out, you can always just not buy them. Ultimately, they're intended for players who want to help them stand out of the crowd when playing online, or even those who are big fans of the game and want to support us further. Yes, it means some players end up spending more on our games than others, and that does result in increased profits for us. It also helps us to put more money into new titles and understand what players look for in their games. If players simply didn't buy these crates, they would not be added into games of the future. All in all, loot crates / cosmetic items in general have been a huge boon for the gaming industry, being a driving factor in the increased popularity of gaming over the past decade or so. They aren't a bad thing if done right. Your feedback on the topic is still very much appreciated, as this is a hotly debated topic. I do hope you consider the impact it would actually have on your enjoyment of the game, though. I already jotted down some notes on this one. Because it's hard to think right now. So, excuse me if I move the chat over there for a second so I can go through this, because I wanted to do this step by step. Step 1. I want to make this really clear because this is actually important to keep in mind. This is specifically a defense of loot crates, not of microtransactions as a concept, not of DLCs, not of That's amusing, Munch DK, but I have to be on a business plan because it's the only way that I could have no data cap. That's why I have a business plan, not because it's better, because it has no data cap. Because I don't feel like shelling out even more money for the amount of upload. I mean, do you have any idea how much pipe I use? Anyways, so this is all about loot crates. It's very important. Now, if you don't want me to tear this to shreds, this would be a good time to stop the video. Because I like to be tolerant and understanding and as forgiving and accepting and kind and respectful as it is possible for me to do. That's very centric to the way I think. But that also means that the moment you step over the line, the moment you do something that is unacceptable, I will respectfully, unequivocally, truthfully tell you that you're a goddamn moron. So this is about loot crates. First step. He tries to say, as has been pointed out, these loot crates are purely cosmetic. I do appreciate why players feel the way they do about them. Not a huge fan myself. However, as it was pointed out, you can always just not buy them. Several problems with that sentence. First of all, there's an argumentative concept that he's using here. It's the "don't worry, I'm on your side" argument. That's why he added in that I'm not a huge fan about them myself, and I do appreciate why players feel the way they do about them. Which, if you actually sit back and think about it, doesn't mean a goddamn thing. It just means that, oh, other people feel this way. Okay. And, well, here's my thought. I'm with you, man. I mean, now, if you don't understand how insidious this kind of an argument is, this is actually normal interrogation procedures in the military to try and form a sort of a psychological bond with the person you're interrogating, showing them that you are on their side. Just therefore painting yourself in a light such that you are not the enemy rather than them, rather than the people you work for. My bosses are the one making me do this to you. I gotta be honest. Yeah, anyways, cosmetic. So, let's go ahead and be honest about something. Cosmetic microtransactions and cosmetic and loot crates are better than pay-to-win transactions, microtransactions, and pay-to-win loot crates. That is true. Let's acknowledge that. However, it has been true for years at this point that that's no longer a valid argument. No, Magister. Again, what I am saying is 100% accurate. Also, Sorry, reining in the anger. I am angry. I'm legitimately angry about this. Not angry at you, Magister. But unfortunately, I am very likely to be right in this case, because I have actually analyzed text and speech before. It's something I've done for a living, and it's something I've done most of my life. And that's what I did here. I analyzed the sentence structure, the word usage, and the specific types of constructs of his overall flow of argument to dissect it, which is why I have an entire page of notes on my screen right now to read from. So no, I don't think this is reading too much into it. Again, if you think this is reading too much into it, there's the door. Cosmetics being an acceptable method by which to do microtransactions or loot crates, it really just hasn't been an accurate argument for many, many, many years. And I'm going to explain several reasons why. Reason number one. Yeah, Eric is right. I am reading into this. That is absolutely true. It's just, that's why I wanted to read that word forward. That's why I got the screenshot right here of the actual statement. Anyways, let me give you an example. Clothing. Hear me out. How many of you care about what you look like? In real life, you know. Right? Now, I imagine a decent number of you are just like, I'll wear whatever. And that's a totally valid example, because not everyone cares about what they look like. I mean, right? That's not a big deal. A lot of people just wear whatever's comfortable, or whatever's cheap. But imagine for a moment that clothing was available basically, like just straight up clothing, was available as for free, right? Imagine if you could just get clothes, t-shirt, you know, just t-shirt pants or t-shirt shorts, the end, right? And that's what you could get. If you wanted to actually look decent, if you wanted to look in a particular way, if you wanted to have a nice overcoat like this is like a $300 coat here, or if you wanted to wear a specific type of brand because you really like the ability, if you wanted to have a Kingdom Hearts logo here, or if you wanted to have the Imperial logo right here, I'm hoping to be able to sell these soon for really, really cheap. I basically want to sell them just for shipping costs. That way it's basically just you're compensating for the thing. You get the idea, right? Imagine if you had to go out and actually pay real money for that, right? Now, I can already hear the counter argument. Well, that's the nature of real life. It takes additional time and resources in order to physically produce the additional type of clothes, and therefore it should actually cost more to get them. Valid point. Definitely a valid point. It is also worth noting, really quick, that the only point of me bringing up the clothing analogy was to establish a singular point. I'm establishing a logical conjecture here, okay? And that is that people care what they look like. And that is definitely true in games. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong. I'm sorry, this is not a debatable. This is not a, yeah, I think, no. People, not everyone, obviously, but people do care about what they look like in video games. Period. This is an extremely established fact. Like, just, I don't even feel the need to explain this point. Which brings me to my next point, right? So, the argument that in real life, you know, all of this stuff would actually cost more money and therefore should theoretically cost more money to do makes a degree of sense. And the argument then could be shifted over here to say that because additional time and effort is put into cosmetics in a video game, that they should cost more than the base game. Now, there's several ways to dissect that, but I'm going to go ahead and go with what I believe is the simplest and easiest way to dissect that point. And that point is this. This is a video game. In real life, different rules apply. Because real life, let's be honest with ourselves, really boils down to survival. Everything above that is optional. A video game, by sheer definition, is fun. What fun can be can vary. Lots of people enjoy different things about video game. But the absolute baseline definition of a video game is, this is entertainment. So the very idea of trying to apply real-life capitalist... that's the wrong word. Real-life... No, that is the right word. I'm not anti-capitalism, as I think I pointed out, but trying to apply real-life, actual capitalism into a video game setting is, in my opinion, a flawed mentality from the word go. Because at that point, and this is something that I have seen many other developers and publishers do, they're trying to argue that the products they sell, the services they sell, should be equated exactly the same as this coat I'm wearing right now. And that is simply not true. As Hazardous pointed out, this is actually a good parallel too, and thank you for the point, Hazardous. It's if they sit down and design this coat in a video game, right? Then that takes time and effort, but then it's done. It is a template, basically, that has now been constructed. In order to make this code in real life, each one of these things has to be made individually. So that's the second point here. The argument of cost versus cost to construct and cost to produce just doesn't apply as linearly as some of these people like to think. And I've heard several people try to use that argument. Oh, well, it takes time and effort to... League of Legends is actually the one I want to call out specifically, because I have heard League of Legends publishers, creators, I don't know if they're actually developers, use the argument that, well, we have to charge that much for our skins because it takes time and effort to make them. I'm not talking about like the $5 skins, by the way. And yeah, that's actually a valid point to quote it. Magic the Gathering like to charge the same basic cost for their virtual cards rather than the physical ones. So you can see the way that this is already falling apart. This also leads us to, just to really hammer this point in very quickly here, the very idea that the argument that it's purely cosmetic is a valid argument, but that also goes down to the how, as it was pointed out, you can always just not buy them. That argument is an interesting one, because that argument then immediately showcases two significant problems with an understanding of how a market works. Now, I've talked so much about the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule is one of those... Exactly, Hazardous. The 80-20 rule is one of those things that just a lot of... I swear to God, most people who work in business don't even know what it is, never mind how it works. To properly dissect this, I'm actually going to save this for the side here. I just want you guys to remember the 80-20 thing, because it actually comes up again later, and I'd rather talk about it later in his sentence. So let's move on to his next sentence here, shall we? Ultimately, they're intended for players who want something to help them stand out from the crowd when playing online, or even just those who are big fans of the game and want to support us further. All right. So, it almost is Jono Trino. It really is one of the most basic economic concepts, as in, like, as far as economics as a concept, but I actually know what you're talking about, Remedy. Anyways, and that we're going to bring that up, too. Anyways, so, they're intended for players... They're intended... I don't want to be misjudging this. I want to use word for word. They're intending for players... Intended... I'm shaky today, please forgive me. For players who want something to help them stand out from the crowd when playing online. I'm going to chop that sentence off right there, because the next part is unrelated, which is or even though just those who are big fans of the game who want to support us further. I chopped that out because in his own argument, he is ultimately saying, I understand why there is a value in the cosmetic side of things, wanting to stand out from the crowd. That is more or less by definition the very idea of showing off online. I mean, okay, legitimate question. Agreed, Battle Programmer. Legitimate question. How many of you have ever gone out of your way in any game ever to seek out something just so you can have it to look cool? Either for yourself or for friends, or if it's an online or whatever. Now, I'm going to give you probably one of the first examples for me personally, and I'm going to get made fun of for this, but it's the truth. You know why I really went out of my way to get the Atma weapon in FF6? Because it looked like a damn lightsaber, and I thought that was cool. It wasn't actually that great. I mean, there's ways to make the Atma weapon great, but the whole reason I went for that was because that was cool. And that was a single-player game. Never mind how much time and effort I've put into STO or World of Warcraft or Asheron's Call just to try and make just the right outfit or get the right mount or even just to have my spells look differently. So, right? Now, I know this doesn't apply to everyone. I know that, absolutely. Again, I'm not trying to say that this is universal to all of reality. Oh, Diablo 2, that's another good example. I know that there's exceptions. Please don't think I'm trying to say otherwise. What I'm trying to say is the idea of wanting to look cosmetic, once again, I'm kind of reestablishing my point here, is a thing that dates back to single-player games, but is like monstrously done when it comes to multiplayer games. This is a very, very common thing. There's a reason it's called Fashion Souls. Having established that point, what did you do in so many of those games to get that? Are you going to go for it, Dakota? Because that sounds cool. Yeah, we're nowhere. I've dissected this post. I spent like an hour this morning just going through. Yeah. Now, obviously, in more modern games, this is going to involve some money. Duh. But my point is, I'm sure a lot of you can think of how many times you've gone out of your way to earn the relic, like Rax was talking about, right? How many of you did Zulaman for Bear Chest, just so you could have the mount, right? How many of you went out of the way to get the Atma weapon? How many of you got the Gladiator in FF5? How many of you, God, I'm trying to think of other examples. Diablo. How many of you went out of your way to get a specific set in Diablo 2, or Diablo 3, for that matter? Fair enough, Dakota. I understand that feeling significantly, since any game I play has to be stopped at a moment's notice because work. Yeah, Ice Crown, trying to get the Invincible. Absolutely. See you around, Adam. You have a good one. My point being, this is now conjecture. But my point being, it is my opinion that one of the things that's been a constant, the Celestial Weapons at FF10, one of the things that's been a constant in video gaming, going back to the SNES era, or the early PC era, is that we will go out of our way to do challenging things, time-consuming things, or... Go ahead, Mihawkspawn. I'm sorry, I keep stumbling over the pronunciation there. We will invest time, we will invest effort, and we will invest in challenge in order to accomplish these things. And that helps us stand out from a crowd, either to ourselves or to other people. The very idea of trying to, because this is one of the things he slants in this post, is the idea he's trying to say, hey, you could drop $20 and look cool. Do I need to continue making my argument on this point? If I was playing... Now, this is, of course, just my opinion. This is why I'm saying we're entering the realm of conjecture. But I would like to think that gamers in general, not all, would rather put in time, which is the worst, effort, which is the middle, or challenge, which is the highest, in order to accomplish something and get something cool. To look cool, to have a mount, to have new spell effects, right? Rather than just dropping money for it. Right? And of course, well, let's go and move on to the next point. Because the next thing he says, this is actually an interesting one. So, to continue his sentence here. Oh, you're right, Larry. You're right. I'm sorry. Gamers don't like doing things. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm actually angry right now. Not at you guys. It's just this post really pissed me off because this is just... Someone sat down and crafted this post. You know what I mean? Someone sat down and was like, okay, we need to do this very precisely and we need to say this. So... Now, the next point is, of course, or even just those who are big fans of the game and want to support us further. Now, I don't actually have much to say about that particular sentence, except for the fact that it's still part of his constructive argument. The whole point he's trying to say there is that he is implying, passively, that the people who are buying microtransactions, and again, let's be clear, these are specifically loot crates we're talking about, but the people who are buying loot crates are doing so because they want to support the game. Yeah, exactly, DeGaulle. Now, here, do I still have it on my paste pen? Yeah, I do. There you go. I know, right, Mandarin? Now, let's go. Let's actually pause for a second, because I've already finished that sentence. Let's address Larian's point. Larian says, gamers like those things, but people love to have a shortcut by paying money. And that is absolutely true. That is a valid point and, frankly, kind of a flaw in reality. Some people will not have the time and effort to put into this. This is why earning, and I'm going to say it that way, earning an actual cosmetic in a game ultimately has to be something that is well crafted rather than simply something that is. And I can use a direct example of this. How many games can you guys think of off the top of your head where you have had a choice, a player choice, in order to go ahead and dump money to, buy a thing, or to go grind your face off for a while? I can think of a recent example of that, because I'm the only person in the world who didn't actually like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And as Hazardous and Rax are both pointing out, the option is what Larian is speaking in favor of, which, okay, I'm with that. Being able to, for example, pay for the Amani bear mount, or go do the 4 chest run, is the kind of thing that I would, in total honesty, kind of be in favor of. I know that sounds horrible, but you'll notice that what I'm saying is the ability to buy the Amani bear mount, and not for $20 freaking dollars. That is too much. Again, that's not what we're talking about, because this is loot crates. This is loot crates which have a chance to drop an Amani bear mount. And if you just keep buying them, you get the point. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like I'm victimizing myself. I apologize. What I mean by that is I have come to understand that more people liked Odyssey than didn't like Odyssey. And that's fine. I accept that. I totally embrace that. Although I have yet to hear someone defend Odyssey without basically also making my point for me. So in other words, basically like, I dislike this because it has blueberries. I like this because it has blueberries. So that's fine. I'm not trying to call anyone out. I'm not trying to play the victim here. I was using that because it's a recent example, because there actually are loot crates in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. For those of you who don't remember, there's some mercenary packs and everything. But yeah, moving on. I was addressing Larian's point. I wasn't prepared for this one. You hit me with these sidewinders. I do like the idea of the option. I really do. And I think that if the option was made available, people would buy it. I also think that these people need to, well, for a point that I'm about to get to. Oh yeah, by the way, as Gary points out, I have the Amani bear mount. I earned that sucker. I am proud of that. And yeah, I don't like to admit that because pride's a bad thing, but it's true. Earning that was enjoyable for me. Nice, Corellis. Anyways, so, okay, getting back to Larian's point. The idea of focusing on the... See, there's 2 points that I want to address here, but they're also addressed further on in this topic. So can I just shelve this for a bit? Because the 2 points are the price and the distribution of money. Okay? Let's just leave those 2 points to the side with regards to Larian's point. Moving forward. Next sentence. Yes, it means that some players end up spending more in our games than others, and that does result in increased profits for us. It also helps us to put more money into the new titles and understand what players look for in their games. I want to stop there. It keeps going, but I want to stop there because there's 2 very important points I want to address there. First and foremost, it means that some players end up spending more on our games than others, also known as water's wet, and that does result in increased profits for us, also known as water's wet. Now, the reason I want to mention that, though, because this very next sentence, again, you can see the constructed argument here. I'm just kind of understanding, this is totally an 80-20 thing. I do understand that some people spend money on our games, and some people go more on our money, but that means increased profits. And then the very next thing he says after increased profits for us is, again, quote for quote, it also helps us to put more money into new titles and to understand what players look for in their games. That's 2 benefits from this, both of which are goddamn lies. Point 1. Let's say money comes in to a major company, and that money comes in from extra microtransactions. Where does it go? I actually did some real research on this one, specifically with regards to Activision Blizzard and Ubisoft in particular, to see what public records exist, because they don't have to report all this publicly, about where exactly they were redistributing wealth, to put it as simply as I can. Funny fact, even though I could obviously bring up the fact that executives and managers get paid way too much, this actually goes into investment. There's actually two types of investment, to be slightly more specific. It goes into paying off investors, depending on the company, because that varies, and it goes on to investing. In case you don't quite get what I mean by that, hi, I'm Ubisoft. Ooh, yes, I just have poker chips on my desk. I just made this much money. Okay, so this is going to pay off the investors, because dividends. I had to think of the right thing. Let's see here. I'm getting to your point, Gary, because Gary's point is my next point. Okay, and this amount, we'll go ahead and give this to, like, the marketing staff and the executives and all that fun stuff. We'll go ahead and pay our actual developers here. Note that the cycle of firing developers after the production of a game is so commonplace that it's ridiculous. This is what DeGaulle has been talking about for a bit now. Because then we have these other 4 chips here. So there's a lot I could do with this. Why don't I go ahead and start investing this into other companies? And other futures. That way, if you don't get my point, I'm just going to summarize. Gaming companies are spending their increased profits in investing in other companies. They are playing the game just as any other investor is, just at a corporate level. You could argue whether that's a good move or not. That is a debatable argument. That is something that a lot of people would argue for a long time. Speaking personally, this is just my opinion, this is dumb. This is the kind of thing that will cause an economic flow-through to cease. And it's going to cause bottlenecking. It's going to cause the entire flow-through to just kind of become... I can't think of the words right now, I'm so tired. It's when the pace of the river goes down. Like the water trickles out, right? Because after a while, this cycle just loses bit by bit. Money just kind of gets bled out and bled out and bled out. And all of these companies, I shouldn't say all, the 2 companies I looked into, and I would suspect quite a few additional companies, are putting too much of their infrastructure and continued development, in other words, their ability to function as a company, on other companies, which are putting it into other companies, which are putting it into other companies. Am I making sense? I know I'm very tired and I'm struggling with this because I'm actually angry, so please forgive me. But I hope I'm making some kind of sense here. In other words, there's no real input into the market and there's no real output of the market. Now, economy is all about flow, and I've talked about that so many times I feel like I'm repeating myself. But flow doesn't just mean within a closed circuit. A closed circuit is a bad, bad thing, economically speaking, at least at the macroscopic scale. Make sense? Now, at the investor scale, this is great. Oh my God, yeah, invest. So, point 1, where the money is actually going to. It helps us put money into new titles. That is a great sentiment. And it's something that we've actually talked about before. And I believe there are companies that do that. I don't have any proof, but I believe there are companies that actually cycle around some of the increased profits into developing more titles, because that's logical. It's one of the things I've talked about before. In a hypothetical situation, if we had a company that had microtransactions, that had loot crates, and yes, towards one of the to one of our future things that are happening, Rotu. God, I've lost my train of thought. If they actually put this into new development, either new teams or just putting more money into the developers. I know this is going to sound crazy, but believe it or not, developers, this is a near universal constant. Developers who are happy are productive. Morale is a very real thing when it comes to quality and when it comes to quantity, both. So that's a nice sentiment, but citation needed, you know? Second point, and this is what Gary just analyzed. It allows us to understand what players look for in their games. You got it, Retu. Let me jot that down really quick before I forget. I mean, this goes back to what I was talking about with the crunch problem, really, because crunch is basically the opposite of morale. When you were trying to shove out as much content, but don't do what I'm doing. Although it's worth noting, what I'm doing is fully optional. It really is. I could just stop. I could just take a day off if I wanted to. That is my choice. The problem with crunch is they don't have that choice. It's like, work this much or you're screwed. Also, no paid overtime. But that's another topic. That's another topic. So, there's two problems with we understand what players look for in the games. Let's address Gary's point first, because he already made it for me. This is basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. All right, let's put microtransactions in to see what people buy, what gamers are interested in. Oh, they bought these specific types of microtransactions, probably especially the cosmetic things. Cool. Okay, let's make more of that. Okay, now let's see what's sold. Oh, it's the cosmetic stuff. Let's see what else sells, and so forth and so on. I mean, this point is so obvious, I don't even feel the need to make it. It is self-fulfilling. If you slant your game towards this, or you are already developing a game towards this, and you look at the analytics, and let's actually look at the second point really quick here. The analytics, right? I'm curious what data they think they're getting from loot crates. Think about that for a second. Okay, are they looking at sales versus loot crates? How exactly do loot crates tell anyone what people want in a game? Now, you could argue, well, from a transaction perspective, if we do, like, for example, a sale where for this month, if you buy loot crates, they have a chance to drop the... I don't know. The hand vacuum mount. And this mount's only available for this month. And therefore, if a whole lot of people buy more loot crates during that month, they could then say, well, people like these stupid mounts. Cool. That is the only real data you can get from this kind of a situation. It doesn't tell... This is, again, a fallacy in the way he's constructing this argument. To understand what players look for in their games, what he actually should be saying there, to be 100% accurate, is what kind of microtransactions players are willing to spend on. What it is that the market is willing to dump money in order to procure. Which, let's be 100% blunt here, really has very little to do with the game. Now again, cosmetics matter. Again, I get that. I care about that. I know one person personally, he's in chat right now, who doesn't care about cosmetics in a video game. But that's not what I'm trying to say. Because it's not like they get the data that, oh, people care about looking cool. It's more the data of, oh, people like buying loot boxes because this stupid thing is available right now. I mean, Tor has been doing this all over the place. I was also going to say the limited time factor also doesn't give them any money. My point is, if I was in a meeting with these people, and this guy gave this argument to me, he would have to argue very hard to keep his job, because this is a level of incompetence that is frankly just disgusting. I would actually call him to task. All right, come up here. Get in front of the meeting room right now. Tell me all of the delicious data you think you're getting from loot crates. By all means, I'm waiting. Because there really isn't any. This brings me to my second point about the understand what players look for in their games. Now, like it or not, this is the digital age. That means at this point in history, it is more possible to get real actual data, real feedback from players, viewers, and all sorts of other things than it has ever been. Now, I don't want to get into a controversial topic. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a fact. Netflix can literally see the actual exact number of seconds that people have watched any given show to see their actual rating, to see how popular they are. That is factual data that exists. Amazon does the same thing. Gaming has the same concept in several respects. Not universally, obviously, but in several respects, they have access to data with regards to how much... You can't fire lizard. I'm sorry, Nigel. You caught me. They can actually look at how much time you spend on a game, In some games, games that have, like, service games especially, they can actually check how much time any given player spends doing specific types of matches, or how much time they spend with certain types of weapons, or how many people use certain types of mods. There's tons of data that exists to drive what I would refer to as actual analytics. That would be what I'd look at if I was curious and concerned about exactly what people care about. Tracking achievements, tracking game completion, tracking mission progression, tracking which kind of characters interact with the most. You know, it depends on the game, and that's the problem. I can't apply this universally. But you name a game, and I can tell you which kind of analytics could be pulled from that game, as long as it has some kind of connection, either to the internet or an online server or whatever. You don't need freaking loot crates to get analytical data. You get analytical lore out of that one. Wait. Look at my own notes here. Ah, yeah. So, next point. This one, this is the one that everyone else talked about. This is actually the specific quote that brought this post to my attention. And I quote, "If players simply didn't buy these crates, they would not be added into games in the future." Oh, God, where do I begin with that one? Yeah. I mean, if I actually made this comment on my Discord, so I'm going to repeat myself here. God, if people would just stop buying all this cocaine, I'd stop selling it. I laugh because I don't want to cry on camera. I do too much of that already. What can I even say about that? Okay. First of all, I actually did construct a bit of an argument about this, rather than just... Because, first of all, the two most obvious counterpoints to that I thought of were drugs, you know, cocaine or whatever, and weapons. Well, if people didn't buy them, we wouldn't sell them. The problem is, and this could be easily leveled, well, those are real-life things, and you're trying to apply them to video game concept. Fair enough. Again, video games are entertainment, and I firmly believe in that concept. You ever heard of gambling? Oh, I'm not talking about loot boxes gambling. I'm talking about going into a casino and gambling. As I've said before, how many of you... I've done some digging into the dozens of things that casinos do, at least in Vegas. I don't know elsewhere. The dozens of things that Vegas casinos do to rip as much money out of you as possible. It is super predatory. It is super exploitative. It is. Now, some people, they just don't have the mindset for that, and they're basically immune to it. I know several people myself. That being stated, I also know several people personally, I mean, who do have issues with gambling. There's a reason why... So the reason why my family started settling in Vegas originally was basically because of my great-great-grandmother who had some gambling issues. I mean, I don't want to speak ill of her, but it is a truth. It is an actual truth. She had gambling issues, and so she moved to Vegas. And, well, that turned into a financial wreck. Let's just summarize that. I mean, the amount of things they do in casinos is ridiculous. And now that's my point. Let me really make my point clear here, okay? There is a difference between walking into a casino, again, I want to stress, a Vegas casino, because I don't know how it works in the rest of the world. There's a difference between walking into a Vegas casino and... let's say going to a friend's house and playing poker with real money. Now, I know that seems like a stark contrast, but the relevant point I'm trying to make is that gambling, whether you like it or not, is not a linear thing. Gambling is not just a universal concept. Gambling is the kind of thing that is usually pushed onto you, or like Faldera says, the expectations are different. A lot of gambling companies will go out of their way to make sure, casino companies will make sure, look at all this money you could win, look at all this great stuff that could happen. Just the simplest way to put this is predatory practices, just to call that by a singular term. This then makes the problem for us. So they say if players simply didn't buy these crates, they would not be added into games in the future. But the problem is we have factual evidence that many of these companies, including Ubisoft, are using predatory practices. Now, it's not to the extreme of Vegas casinos, but then again, they've been doing this for decades. We're working on it. I mean, you can't tell me that the practices... I'm sorry, I hate to keep using this word because it's such a buzzword, but it's a statement. I mean this as a statement of fact. The amount of predatory practices that game companies have been using has been increasing and getting worse and more insidious. So again, if players didn't buy these things, we would not add them into games of the future. I've already mentioned the immediate flaw with that. But imagine if someone walked up to you and was like, hey, do you want to buy this? Like, I'm sorry, that's not a good example, but you get my point. They are actively pushing these, is my point. Let's go back to the drug analogy. That's a good analogy. If there was a store over on the corner that sold drugs, people would buy them. I think we can all admit that. If there was... But that's not how people sell drugs, is it? Because people give away free samples, because people try to push, because people try to get other people's friends involved, because people try to make sure that they keep it on the down low, or they only give them a little bit, or they give them spliced, or not spliced, what do you call that? Sliced? I actually don't remember the term. Types of drugs, in order to try and say it's not actually that bad because we're giving you this, watered down version. There's a term for that. I can't think of it right now. That's true, Geludo. But you get my point. There is a difference. If they weren't pushing at all, if they were not pushing these crates, they might have at least the beginnings of an argument by saying that, well, we only put these into games. I'm just going to wait for the Twitch feed to come back now. I show full connections. I have no idea what's going on. Someone say Kefka when I'm back. What was I saying? I'm actually giving myself a headache. If they would have the beginnings of a fair argument if they weren't actively pushing them, but they are, so they aren't. And in addition to that, notice how this once again ties into the previous sentence. Going back to his constructed argument, I'm going to read this word for word. It also helps us put more money into new titles, which, as we already established, is basically a lie, and to understand what players look for in their games. If players simply didn't buy these crates, they would not be added into games in future. Again, kind of tying those 2 points together. Obviously, players are looking for loot crates because people buy them. Therefore, players must be looking for loot crates. So, next sentence. This is a fun one. This is when it gets really bad. All in all, loot crates / cosmetic items in general have been a huge boon for the gaming industry, capital G, capital I, being a driving factor in the increased popularity of gaming, capital G, over the past decade or so. Bull crap. First of all in all, loot crates / cosmetic items in general have been a huge boon for the gaming industry. Remove the word gaming from that, and it's a little more accurate, because it's a misleading statement. It has arguably been a boon for investors and for industrial heads, for executives, for people who actually put what I like to call money people. That is an arguably true statement, that microtransactions and loot crates have been better for the industry. Oh, I know, Mandart. That's I keep mentally correcting it to in the future, and I keep having to mentally fix that. So there has absolutely been an increase in money in the gaming industry in the last decade. That is a true statement. However, as has already been discussed, by and large, the percentage of that money that's been going into gaming is pretty damn small. And we can actually prove that. All you need to do is look at the mobile market to prove that. That is extremely easy to prove. Next point he makes, though, is... The next point he makes is This again, look at his constructed argument. All in all, now that we've made all these points, let's do the concluding argument. All in all, loot crates / cosmetic items, notice he points to those two things specifically, by the way, in general, have been a huge boon for the industry, being a driving factor in the increased popularity of gaming over the past decade or so. In other words, directly tying in loot crates, of all things, and cosmetic items into the fact that gaming has been increasing in popularity over the last decade. Now, we'll try to take his statement as directly as possible, so 2008 to 2018, okay? This is so ludicrously stupid, I'm not actually sure where to start. The very idea that... Okay, let's start with market share. The very idea that an increased amount of money that can be spent on a market, which, as we've already fairly well established, is being pushed in a predatory manner, can pull in more people into playing games, and I'm really putting that in quotes, as a consequence of that, is something that is a debatably true statement, that there are more people who are actually pulling in to gaming as a consequence of these things. I know this for total certainty on a personal level because I actually know people personally who only started playing video games when they started doing, let's call it what it is, gambling. I know 2 people personally who, and I'm really putting this in quotes here, play video games on the laptop in this case, and one on a laptop, one on a tablet, so basically a mobile game, because it's what they do instead of going to the casino. And that's literally their reasoning. Well, this way I don't have to leave the house to go gambling. Now, they don't get any money out of it. They're not playing like the slots machine games. They're just playing games that you spend money on to get little things, because they get the same high from it. It gives them the same feeling of enjoyment. So it is an arguable statement that the market share has increased. That there is more... I'm using the wrong term, aren't I? The market size has increased. That there are more people playing video games than there used to be as a direct consequence of this thing. That being said, I would argue stridently, and this is just my opinion, that is not true in a meaningful fashion. In other words, that the amount of increased gamers is negligible, specifically and directly tied to the inclusion of loot crates and cosmetic items. This brings us to our second point. The point that he might have here is that there's new money coming in, which means there's more games coming out. You'll notice this ties into his previous point, spending more on our games than others and increased profits from us. It helps us put more money into new titles, that whole bit, right? This ties into his earlier point. Again, citation needed, because there is basically no evidence of companies actually doing this, with exceptions, obviously. But since we're not thinking of exceptions, we're thinking in terms of the aggregate, as in the entire market. He himself calls it the gaming industry, capital G, capital I. That means that what we're seeing is a situation where lots of additional money has been put into the industry and has not been put into the games. Now that's important because that then applies to his specific argument, the increased popularity of gaming. If all this new money is your argument for why gaming has gotten more popular, then where's the connecting point? Because as we just established, there is none, with exceptions. I could also... I mean, I could dissect this in several other ways, but this is the argument I decided to go with because money. It's my thing. What do you want from me? Now, marketing. That's an interesting point. It has been argued that marketing is why video gaming has really started exploding in the last decade or so. And I agree. I really do. But I don't think that marketing has anything to do with money. Anybody who's been watching my show for any period of time knows how much I have ranted about how much money is wasted on bad marketing when it isn't necessary. The last 10 years have seen an era in which marketing as a very concept has changed. The very nature of how information is distributed, people are made aware of products, and people are made aware of new developments in those products, has changed so fundamentally from previous years, from previous decades at this point. So, now, accessibility is also an excellent point. My point being... My point being that more money is being spent on marketing. This is something we can prove. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5's marketing budget was gargantuan, and that was within the last decade. But I personally disagree. I do not have factual data on this, but I personally disagree that the increased money dumped on marketing has led to a direct increase in the size of the market for gaming. My opinion. I think that it's mostly marketing as a concept. Word of mouth, live interviews, streams, which have become a thing, YouTube videos, which have become a thing, more interaction directly between devs and players, social media feeds, all that kind of stuff. It is my argument, which again, I don't know if it's totally true, that that is what is directly leading towards an increased awareness and thus market size of marketing for gaming. Now, what Takoida says is also a very valid point. I'm sorry, I like NES games as much as anybody, but getting and playing a NES game was kind of an issue. Right? Exactly, Ratu. By contrast, I could drive down to Walmart right now, pick up a 3DS for relatively cheap, drive right back with a game in hand and already be playing. Just bam, bam, bam. Now, there are certain specific times in gaming where that has kind of been a thing, but, I mean, you guys remember when there were like 5 or 6 gaming stores, which were actually toy stores, but just also happen to include video games, which may or may not have what you want in stock, because it's not like they're actually a gaming store, right? I mean, how many of you remember that era? Let's talk about PC gaming. There's a good one. How many of you remember when getting a PC that can actually play games properly, or at all, was actually a challenge, because PCs in general were not as standardized, and were still very much in development, and also just expensive as hell. I mean, granted, PC gaming has not gotten a lot cheaper, but it has gotten a lot more accessible. That's one of the reasons why when people ask me, which Final Fantasy do you request first? I say 4 on Steam, because it is extremely easy to get that. Just bam. You have a PC, you have Steam, you have FF4, right? The accessibility has massively increased. And yeah, that's a valid point. PCs didn't used to be geared for gaming. Hi, Guinevere. I remember the exact same thing. Me and my friends used to keep track, like just mentally, of who owned which NES games, and we just cycle them between us. Like as soon as Vincent would finish his playthrough of I don't know, Mega Man 3, he'd be like, "Hey, Lore, I finished Mega Man 3. You want to borrow it?" "Oh yeah, give me a few more days. I'm still going through Ninja Gaiden." "Okay, no problem." And then when we'd finish, we'd swap. I'd give him Ninja Gaiden, and he'd give me Mega Man 3. That was normal. My point being, I could construct multiple arguments stating why gaming has become big, and quite literally none of them have to do with the inclusion of loot crates and cosmetic items. Next point. This is my favorite one. This is the shortest sentence in the whole thing, and it's called the bang argument. It's when you do argument, and then you do something very short and very swift to be like shunk, and then that's supposed to be like the punctuation mark, the exclamation mark at the end of your argument. So what he says is, and I quote, "They aren't a bad thing if done right." Citation needed. It is a nice theoretical concept. It really is. It is entirely possible that if people were to use loot crates and cosmetic items for good purposes, to cycle money back into the developers, to cycle money back into the developing, to cycle this into increased actual proper marketing, to maybe make it so that they do, I don't know, development of a new engine. That's pretty expensive. It might involve a separate team, all sorts of stuff like that. There are plenty of ways that could actually be true. And I admit that. Which brings me to his final point. This is my favorite one, because this is passive-aggressive bullcrap right here. Everything I've just read in my opinion, was something that was written for this guy or girl or whatever, this person. I think this very last sentence was something that they wrote for themselves. Actually, Felderis, that's a very good point. In a vacuum, cocaine has its own purposes. No, it really does. Like, there's legitimate medical uses for cocaine. They're very site-specific. I mean, cocaine's actually a bad example. Opiates would probably be a better example of something that has good things in the right circumstances. That's true, Takoida. Is this even a real person? Not sure, Mike Romano. Again, all I have to go off of here is my own analysis of the sentence structure, the word poise, my own reading into it. That's all I got. Your feedback on the topic is still very much appreciated, as this is a hotly debated topic. Translation. It's good to hear from you. Obviously, this is a hot button thing, so we need to treat this carefully. Okay. Priming. I'm on your side. I'm on your side. I do hope you consider the impact it would actually have on your enjoyment of the game throw. And there it is. Did you catch it? Let me run it through one more time. I do hope, I'm going to say this tonally to get across what he's saying with his word choice. I do hope you consider the impact it would actually have on your enjoyment of the game, though. An incredibly passive-aggressive implication of the fact that they don't have a proper point and that their concerns are baseless. I mean, how much actual problem with the game do you really have? I mean, honestly, these cosmetics and loot crates, are these really an issue? But he does it in such a patronizing, passive-aggressive, bullcrappy manner. That's the one that really sung for me, because from a personal perspective, that's the kind of thing I hear every day of my life, and have for a while now. It's something I've heard for quite a while in the past, too. The argument of... It's basically the argument of, well, there's something wrong with you. I mean, I'm willing to work with you on this one, but clearly there's something wrong with you for thinking this way. It's also worth noting that this is, again, part of a constructed argument. Different argument, actually, at this point. The constructed argument at this point is to say, there's something wrong with you. I'm willing to reach out on it. Maybe you could defend your point for me. In other words, rather than actually making his point, which as I think I've dissected enough, he hasn't, he is demanding that you make your point. There's actually a term for this. I can't actually think of it. Hang on, let me see if I have it written down here. Because this is a specific type of a logical fallacy. A wrong argument, to put it as simply as I can. Here we go. It's when you don't actually make an argument, you force the other person to make their argument. Hang on. Burden of proof reversal. There it is. Hello, Dream Whisperer. That's even more condescending, Gary, if that's actually accurate. You know what's funny? I've been saying the same thing more and more lately. I like Ubisoft games. I think they're a good development company. Or, I'm saying that wrong. I think they have good developers. There we go. Let's put it that way. There are quite a few Ubisoft games that have come out that I have legitimately enjoyed without hesitation. I hate the company, though. I mean, how many times have I been saying that about Nintendo? Or Square? Or Blizzard? Even back when I was a Blizzard fan. It's just becoming more and more common for me to say something to that effect. And if I'm being 100% honest, and I don't want to sound like apocalyptic or whatever, but I have a feeling that this entire companies investing into a closed circuit investment cycle problem is part of why this is becoming an increasing problem. There are still legitimately talented and creative people out there who want to put out good products. I guarantee you of that. I'm going to see a movie tonight, which is a Disney film, which is probably a really good film. And it was put out by Disney. And enough said. And I know what someone's going to think. So what do we do about this? Nothing. This is at a point where this if I am correct, this is beyond our ability to influence. What we need to do is we need to support the good games and the end, basically. That's all the power we have. I believe you, Falderis. I really do. Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph 2. Sorry, that's what I'm saying tonight. With my friend Third. Hopefully we'll actually get to go to Cheesecake Factory tonight after the problems last week. I know, first world problems. But no, I mean, you are right. That is what we can do. Don't buy loot crates. That's the first and most obvious thing. Now, let's be 100% honest with ourselves. That will not stop loot crates because we aren't the target audience for loot crates. It's like saying, hey, everyone in chat, don't buy cocaine, to continue the parallel. I'm pretty sure, call me crazy, that most of you already don't do that. We're not the target audience for that. Right? Now, I know what you're saying. Obviously, everyone is technically the target audience for loot crates. But what I mean by that is we are the people who are already disinclined to buy them. At most, we might be like, maybe? I mean, I do kind of want that one thing. Now, what Hazardous says is actually something very interesting, and it's something that applies to... Damn it, Venters. It's something... Cocaine! Or wait, how do you take cocaine? I actually don't know. What was I going to say? Oh, right. Okay, so this is a related topic. Oh, you snorted. Okay. Oh, cocaine, it's so good. I'll snort the money. I'll snort the poker chips. Oh, yeah. They smell weird. Holy crap. That smells so weird. Thank you very, very much, Hariant. I will jot that down right now. This direct thing that you just... Hang on, Hariant, that will buy you 25 lore crates. Now let's go ahead and open the first lore crate and see what you get. Oh, you get 15 lore points. Let's open the second. No. Oh god, I lost my coin. Let me jot that down really quick. Hariant. Oh, it's a lowercase a. It's lowercase a. There we go. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. A game I'm actually really looking forward to. One of the other problems, and this is... I've talked before about how much... It's a great opening screen. I've talked before about how much the... how much business people don't understand business, is the simplest way I want to put that. I mean, I know that sounds horrible. I was actually joking about it on chat, in voice chat with Pax just last night. As I basically just dissolved into hysterics. I'm like, I can't be the only one who understands economics. I can't be. Come on. Surely someone in the business world understands economics. Because it was getting to me. It was getting to me. I was doing some of the prep work for this analysis I'm talking about right now, and I was just dissolving. What's the straw poll? Oh my god, is it that linear? I haven't even looked at the straw poll. Hang on. No, that's not done. It's still super close. Only 80 people, 85 people have voted, and they're still 3 away from each other. Hang on. I'm gonna get into. I'm gonna dip my toe into controversial topics here, but I got two things to talk about. Okay, so don't let me forget. The first is about moving markets, and the second is about why people are in business. Okay, in case I forget. First point. I'm a kid with my parents' wallet, or I make tons of money, or whatever. You know, I am a whale. So I pull up my phone here. I actually have two games on my phone, so I can't. I only have Kingdom Hearts Unchained and Opera Omnia. But let's pretend I pull up like what's a mobile game? It doesn't matter. Bob game. So I pull up the Bob game here. And I'm just playing the Bob game, and I dump money on it, and I dump money on it, and I play it, and I dump money on it, and then let's estimate here. Let's spend I don't know, a few $100 on this game, and then I'm kind of getting bored of this game. And then Emperor Valerian, and then I say, I'm going to give $60 to this bald idiot who thinks he knows economics. What are you doing, Valerian? Putting it towards Smash Bros. Well, thank you. Oh, God! Yeah, Valerian, I need you to fund my habit.
They all do.
Oh my God, why are people donating right now? What the hell? Stop donating. What are you doing? Okay, hang on. So first of all, thank you very, very much, Mega DA. I'll put that towards... Actually, that's a separate category for those. Where's Young Justice? There it is. You're the first person to put anything towards that. There we go. Thank you very, very much. Second of all, thank you very, very much, Vigilant. Okay. I will have to... first of all, jot that down for Anthem. Thank you again. I am kind of curious how that one's going to work out. What, Kevin? Oh my God. Anthem. Thank you very, very much. Vigilant, thank you very, very much, Zed Slayer. Unlike some people who I am more or less deliberately making fun of in the video gaming industry, I really do appreciate your income, and I do hope I put out a product that you actually care about. Thank you. Valerian! Thank you. Way too much for basically funding the Smash Premiere Run. Yes, there is, Harian. Right now, we only have two suggested. That would be Rebels and Young Justice. But anything that that qualifies for Mini Nation is something that can be funded. Yes. Thank you, guys. I need to show more skin. Joke's on you. I've got a shirt under this. Oh, I gotta snort these poker chips. Oh yeah. Oh. Let's get back to my point really quick here before I lose it. Let's say I'm playing my game here, and I've spent a few $100 on this game. Okay, so I'm spending money on it. I'm spending money. I'm not really feeling that anymore. So I pull up the App Store. I'll actually pull up the App Store right now. Let's go ahead and make this complete. Pull up the App Store. What do we got right now? Let's see here. There's even a category for games. Here we go. Assassin's Creed Rebellion. So I download that and install that. And I spend some money on it. But then I get a little bored. So it's a couple weeks down the line, and I pull up a thing, and I see Wild
Of course
Beyond.
You follow me. They all do.
And I'm not going to look at that right now. Or CRS Racing, or NBA 2K Mobile Basketball, or whatever else, you know? What else we got here? Kingdom Rush, that's one. Cats Crash Arena, F1 Mobile Racing. All of these are in the category of microtransactions. Spend little money on a... And that's the problem. There is a lot of legitimate evidence that that's how whales function. Now, there are, of course... I don't know, Ventures. I need to look into it specifically. There are, of course, specific people who will just sit there and continue to play a single game. You know, there's a form of the lost sunk cost fallacy when it comes down to that. I'm playing such and such, so I have to keep playing such and such. And these are the stories you hear about, the people who spend thousands of dollars on mobile games. But there is a sufficient amount of data available that indicates that most whales, whatever form they take, just move on to whatever is interesting the next month. Whether they're on PC or mobile or whatever, doesn't matter. This is something I actually brought up before when it came to the reason why I was against Blizzard moving too far into the mobile market. Because, let me put it to you in another way. I swear I'm going to look at that donation, but I don't want to lose my train of thought here. Let's say, I hope someone's not in chat right now. Let's say that you want to make, let's say this is 2002, and you look at EverQuest, Asheron's Call, and Ultima Online, and you look at the thousands and thousands and thousands, millions of subscribers that those games have, and you think, awesome, so we need to make an MMO. Our MMO only has to have a fraction of that market in order to be soluble, right? In order to actually function and actually go forward. The problem is that kind of marketing approach automatically assumes that you are going to get a chunk of that market, a set chunk of that market. And thus, you sort of go into this. Yeah, I know, Gary. You go into that thinking, awesome. You can see how this directly parallels to the mobile market or to microtransactions or loot boxes. Well, okay. Too many. I guarantee you, there are people in marketing rooms, in meeting rooms, in meeting rooms, who are sitting there and thinking, you know what? Here's a bunch of figures, and they'll have a PowerPoint presentation, right? Because it's always PowerPoint. And up there they'll say, here's the current amount of money that this other company made on loot boxes, or how much money is being made on loot boxes in general right now in the gaming industry. And so they dazzle people with these, the actual decision-making people, with these huge numbers of millions, if not billions of dollars that cycled through this, and they say, we want a piece of that market. And everyone's like, yeah. But they have no idea what they're doing because they're presuming that they will gain a percentage share of that market, which is the first problem. The second problem is what I already said, that market is a very moving market. The individual companies do not, in general, get a significant amount of money out of whales. Whales put money into the overall market, not into a specific company. And that's a very crucial distinction that I personally believe people are missing. That they don't understand. That they're gambling. That they might be the one who happens to catch enough whales to make this profitable, and they might not. Now, of course, when it comes to mobile gaming, which really is kind of a separate topic, this is kind of a separate thing, because mobile gaming is, let's be honest with ourselves, much, much cheaper to develop than, something else. But we're speaking specifically when it comes to loot crates, when it comes to PC games, which admittedly is also still very cheap to produce. So, I mean, it's a win-win, right? We might get chunks of that, and we might not. And for every chunk we do get, well, that's just proof that I'm right, and you should give me a raise. And that brings me to my second point. This is when I'm going to dip my toe into controversial territory. I know it's not Halloween. Hear me out. It is my opinion that the money people in the gaming industry are similar to politicians. Hear me out. I swear I'm going somewhere with this. Because what I mean by that is, I want you to imagine that you somehow have perfect knowledge. That you have, that's what I call it, the ability to just think and have access to real information, right? Let's just presume that for a second. So, if you were to pull up this guy, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe thing here, and say, all right, listen, show me the people who want to do the best job they can as the mayor of Made-Up-A-Stan. Pulls up a list. Okay, perfect. Now show me the list of people who are currently in the running for mayor of Made-Up-A-Stan. I have seen a lot of evidence for this, but it is worth noting that I do not know for factual truth. So this is my opinion. But it is my opinion that these two lists don't share a single name between them. Or if they do, it's exceptions. That the people who want to be good financiers, people who want to be good mayors, people who want to be good executives, people who want to be good managers, people who really care about doing the best job they can to make sure that a company is properly managed are not the people who are managing that company. Simple, individualistic corporate greed has been a problem for literally centuries. This is not new. And I have seen so many dozens, if not hundreds, of examples of situations in which everything went wrong because an individual was thinking about an individual. In other words, that there are managers, executives, accountants, marketing, money people who are interested in making sure that they get the best pay possible, regardless of what that does to the company, and as a consequence, the services and products of that company. You follow me? This is my final point of logic. This is my final argument here. And like I said, we're getting a little controversial with this one, because the idea here is that there are people, like the people who are making decisions and the people who are doing these things are not the people who give a crap. And it is my personal belief. Yeah, exactly, Eric. It is my personal belief that this is why there is this disconnect that I referenced earlier. Because let's be honest, most of the people who are, to bring this back down into the gaming specific, I think this is one of the reasons why I can say I love Nintendo games. I love Ubisoft games, most of them. I loved Blizzard games, right? I loved Bethesda games. This is why I could say, this is my opinion, this is my explanation for why there's this disconnect between developers and companies. Because the developers at these places probably actually want to make a good product, probably really want to do this good thing. And the managers probably don't. I swear, it's another one. Okay, so now, hang on. Now that I'm done with that, let's see what the donation was. It's from Autumn Razor. Hey, what's up? Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I'm glad you like my streams and my ruminations. You can speak up in chat. It's okay. I won't buy it, I swear. They might, but I won't. And I will put that towards Valkyrie profile. Thank you again very much. One. That is true, DeGaulle. Again, I don't want to get into controversial stuff, but it's just freaking true. Okay, so now let me scroll up to what Kevin said earlier, because he said something I just kind of was on a roll, and I didn't want to lose it. No, Falderis is absolutely right. He mentions why there's always been a craze, where it was like, and here's the next RTS, and here's the next first-person shooter, and here's the next MMO, and here's the next MOBA. And then we went to FPSs again, and currently we're on Battle Royale crap. Here are my thoughts on the Fallout 76 disaster. To be continued. There's too much to say there. Who's donating? And yeah, Pyro is very accurate. It's why it's called corporate politics. That is very true. Oh my god, so that was from Sour Cookie. Thank you very, very much, Sour Cookie. I will put that towards the sexy brutal. Someone earlier asked, hang on. Someone earlier asked, it was Munch, wasn't it? Are you still there? Well, no, I agree, Tizar. Honestly, we could apply this to any industry. Any industry. Right? I mean, there are exceptions in virtually every circumstance, but how many people who own restaurant chains really care about making good food, to use another example? Anyways, Nero's asked, give me a second, I'll look that up right now. Munch, okay, so were you the one asking about the Patreon thing? So I can look at this really quick here. Let's see, Nero. Pink slime, yeah. No, according to this, Nero, I did get paid for, I guess that would have been October. So, yeah. Okay, so now Munch asks a question. Now, I'm going to go ahead and address this openly. Munch asked, why is his name not showing up in the credits of the videos? Now, this is an unfortunate reality of the way I do my show, but I just don't have a good way around this. So I apologize. Let me just start with that. Before I explain, I am sorry, because that's the nature of this. See, the problem is I do my videos well in advance. All of December's videos are already done and uploaded. They have been for months. So what I do is as soon as I am done with the raw recordings, when I go to edit together the videos for the package that's going to be put up on YouTube, that's when I update the list of patrons. So that list is the one I use for the videos that go live. Make sense? In fact, at the end of November, when the list is what's to get updated, that November list, post-November list of patrons, is exactly the list of patrons that will be on the videos for the next 6 months or so, give or take. So that's why that is that way. I've actually thought about getting rid of the credits entirely, just to bypass that problem. I don't know. I don't have a good solution. So, yeah, that's my rant of the day. No, okay, so let's talk about Fallout 76 really quick. Fallout 76 is a great idea with the worst marketing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it is... it was badly released, it was badly announced, it was badly presented during E3, it was badly... its actual release time is also bad. Oh, now that's weird, Munch. That shouldn't be. Hang on a second. Because those videos that I'm just referencing, the ones that are going live now, those were updated like in August is when those were all done. Country Road. What is your Patreon name, Munch? Or something? If you want to whisper it to me, go ahead. But it's not Munch. I haven't played the game. I refuse to give judgment on the game because I haven't played it. No, I'm not doing that. However, I will say that what this should have been from the word go. Let me rewind a second here. Let me show you how Fallout 76 could have been a good thing. Damn it, Harriet. Hang on a second. Hang on. Almost to Young Justice. Oh, I don't need to jot down the Young Justice. It's his own category. Thank you, Harriet. Munch, by chance... Hang on, why is it not... Is the picture on your thing a bald gentleman with like a black and white striped shirt with a beard? Is that you? Because if it is, well, then you are on the list. I could find the latest one. Where the hell did it go? Sorry, guys. Give me a second. All right, here's the October one. Yeah, there you are. You are, in fact... Oh, hang on. Let me double check something. Yep, nope, you're there. In fact, if you give me a moment, I could probably find exactly where you are. See, the thing is, it just says Rune. So I use your Patreon names that they tell me for what I put on the thing, and yours just says Rune, nothing else. So that's what would be in the credits, is Rune. Anyways, Fallout 76. Hear me out. So, guys, while we're working on the rest of the main series, we've got this Starfield project we're working on. We're working on a few other things. We're kind of starting development work on some future projects. But we decided to go ahead and announce to our side team they're going to go ahead and push out a kind of like a Gaiden game. It's kind of an experimental game, right? Rather than being a full Fallout game, this sucker is going to be a experiment in multiplayer. Now, I know we already have Elder Scrolls Online, but this is actually developed in-house, and this is on the actual Elder Scrolls engine, the Gamebryo engine. So what we want you to do, it's gonna be like $40, maybe 30, I don't know. And this depends, Nero says, and that's the honest answer to that one. And this product, it's going to be coming out probably about, say, October, November, something like that. We're going to be doing an open beta test first for anybody who wants to try that out. And once we've got the basic infrastructure working, and the run around survivalist thing we've got going on, it's kind of like a survivalist tint. There's still a story, don't worry. It's going to be presented in a different way. We'll consider adding it on to other things, or maybe using some of the lessons we learned from here in future games. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment if they had approached Fallout 76 like that, instead of what they did. If you'll remember, when Fallout 76 was very first announced, the week it was announced, I actually pointed out that it was actually not being developed by the main developer team, that they were working on someone else. I had to report on that because almost no one else was, because it was one of those little details kind of tucked into the corner. And if you remember, they allowed you to pre-order it before it was actually announced. And they did this big announcement stream, which then didn't explain anything. Like, you remember that, right? Everyone was super hyped about the Fallout stream, the Fallout announcement, and then it was just this Country Road video, which people are just like, huh? Like, you see why I'm saying that I think Fallout 76 could have actually been a decent thing. And could have actually been presented better. And was basically, at almost every step of the way, hi Adante, at almost every step of the way they've been approaching Fallout 76 has been wrong. Has been actively bad, even. Then they get to E3. Todd was actually pretty cool at E3. But, you get my point. There are so many different ways they could have approached this and presented this. And they were cagey about details, and they were still thinking, maybe, we're not sure if we're going to do this, but we kind of want to do this. There were interviews that different people were giving that were actually giving contradictory information. Right? I mean, I'm not a good marketer because I don't think like most people do. Like, I'm the kind of person who will value total honesty in your marketing. But for God's sakes, I really think that they could have made Fallout 76 a lot less of a problem if they had walked into it the right way. That's what I mean when I say that Fallout 76 was a decent idea that did everything else wrong, regardless of the quality of the game. Now, once the game had come out, then, we can judge the game based on the quality of the game itself, which, again, haven't played, not going to give judgment on. But everyone was walking into Fallout 76 with, negative 200% bias against it because of how terribly they presented it. And what Zawan says is also valid. They should not have charged $60 for this. You'll notice they've already dropped the price down twice from that, because it never should have been $60. The comment on not changing the old engine, that's my answer to that. I mean, honestly, okay, I've already said this in Discord, so to repeat myself on camera, I understand, probably better than most people do, how much time, effort, and money it takes, and how much of an arduous ordeal it is to design a new engine. But this is Bethesda. They have the time, they have the money, and to be perfectly blunt, they should have the talent. So, do it. Right? Right? Make a new engine. It's like the argument that, well, we gotta be easy on Blizzard, guys, because they're just a tiny little indie studio and they don't have the money to actually fix all their problems. Of course, if we're being 100% honest, this ties into the earlier rant, because we know where that extra profit's going, and it sure as hell isn't into development. Every single time I hear the argument, bonus rant, every single time I hear the argument of, well, just game development is super expensive, I want to smack the people who make that argument. Not actual people. I mean the corporate people who make that argument. Because they're saying one of two things when they say that. They're either saying, I'm a moron, or It is more expensive to maintain the corporate infrastructure we need in order to make sure that our overhead is properly funded, our executive teams and managers and marketing departments are properly funded, and we're making sure to push out enough money both internally and externally into investments in order to produce games today. Therefore, we need to try to charge more money. Being honest, I imagine the second statement is what more of them actually mean, the ones who actually have a brain. So again, you know what's funny? I hate to bring this point up again, but every now and again someone comes at me and says, Lore, you're just anti-capitalism, or just anti-corporate. No! I'm anti-stupidity. I'm anti-greed. I kind of wish, like, fantasy scenario, right? I kind of wish that someone walked up and was like, Lore, here's the power of the Q. And I'm like, whoa, dude, awesome. Okay, after I do all the other thousands of things I want to do with that, I want to go to, like, I don't know, name a company that's used that argument recently. The whole, we need more money argument. Help me out. Name a company. I don't care which one it is. Whoa, shoot. Ah! It's Who Girl! What's up, Who Girl? Thank you very, very much. I do much appreciate. Would you like to put that towards anything, Who Girl? Okay, Activision. We'll go with Activision. That's a great one. Although, EA is even better. I want to go to EA. And remember, I have the power of the Q. So I can be like, all right, let's figure out where you're putting your money. And I would love to basically go through the books of these companies. And I know that sounds strange, but you have to understand, I really am an economics geek. Like, this is something I legitimately am passionate about and care about. I would love to go through the books at, like, EA. And be like, and just do a deep dive of it and figure out where they're putting their money. Because, of course, I have no evidence of this, but I would bet money that there is so much money being tossed at things that it shouldn't be. And I'm not even talking about, you know, the ridiculous amount of money that's tossed to the upper executives, which is a separate problem. I'm talking about the insane amount of money that is being cycled around into what we usually refer to as overhead. Now, let's be honest, overhead serves a purpose. It really does. Properly managed. Oh, I'm sure they are, Corrales. Who would be my Picard? Oh, that's a good question. It'd probably be Rax. Rax would show up with a keyblade, wind and lightning, and Rax is in the full cloak, and he's like, you are supposed to restore balance to the economics, not destroy them. And I say, from my perspective, the gaming industry is evil. Then it cuts back to Rax, then you are lost. I know that has nothing to do with Star Trek. It's just where my head immediately went with that. Well, you know, exactly, Hazardous. Overhead is necessary. Overhead is something that should exist in companies. Within reason. This is so obvious of a thing. I can't even begin to understand this. You make pies, okay? You make apple pies. You need tins, apples, and crust, or whatever you make the crust out of, right? 3 products, 3 things you need to make your product. If we're going to go really all out in this analogy, we'd also count, you know, the ovens and the oven space and the energy. But let's just look at it from the pie perspective. 3 things. So imagine if you bought 17 bushels of apples, 5 pie tins, and 5 crusts. I know that's a simplification, but that is the problem with too much overhead. That really is. It's ludicrous. I'm jotting that down right now. Thank you again, Who Girl. For RE2. I mean, yeah, you need the pie. You need the apple pie consultants. You need the people to tell you to market your pie, and then you need the people to. And again, there is a degree of logic in overhead. There really is. But the problem with excessive overhead is you're putting too much into something that doesn't need that much. It's basically rot. That is exactly why I specifically used that analogy, by the way. I mean, I could have reconstructed this analogy to be far more complex, but I don't need to. Excessive overhead is corporate rot. Straight, 1-to-1. And all of that money is just gone. It doesn't add to the business. It doesn't add to the customer. And to be perfectly blunt, it does not add to the substance of the universe. There's a bunch of piles of rotting apples. That is excessive overhead. Pie loot crates! Oh my god. Now I'm picturing like a person who sells pies, but there's no, you know how there's usually like a window in the box or whatever? Like there's no window. So there's just like hundreds of boxes of pies and you have no idea which is which. And you just pull out a pie like, oh, rhubarb. I'm just picturing that now. Oh. Yeah, I know, right, Retu? But again, that leads to my earlier problem. It is legitimately in the corporation's interest to make money as efficiently as possible. But that is not in the interest of the individual. That one person who makes that choice, or those people in that marketing room who make that choice, are all thinking about their next bonus, or their next raise, or their job security. I've been arguing for close to 20 years now that the consultant cycle is a huge part of this problem. You know, it's the people who insist that their jobs have meaning. Oh, we need to keep having our jobs, so we need to make sure that the industry is super dependent on us. You wouldn't be able to sell any pies if not for me. Right? Not quite the Molyneux effect, but similar direction. Oh god, powdered sugar pies? Is that a thing? How about meat pies? I'm sorry for going off, guys. I told you it'd be a rant.
Oh, well.
Oh my god, who's donating to me?
Pay close attention. Hopefully you'll learn something.
It's Nerozaz. Thank you very, very much, Nerozaz. I do appreciate it. I really do. I swear I'll update the website as soon as I get a moment to not work on YouTube stuff. Putting that towards Thronebreaker. Scotch and steak pie? Can I continue to rant? You mind if I go off on one other thing? Just really quick here. It's like time management. Hear me out for a second, okay? Because time management is important on an individual level and a corporate level, okay? That's true, Velderus. That's true. See, this is the thing. I've mostly been talking about this from a financial perspective. Money, you know, But the thing is, this also is relevant from a time perspective. You ever heard the saying, time is money? Yes, it did, Nerozaz, and I got it, and I said thank you. Did you not hear me? Oh god, I've lost Nerozaz. Come back, Nerozaz. We've lost him to the dark times. I'm not going to shake my desk. Time is quite literally money when it comes to corporate affairs. Any amount of time that an employee spends on a project is a literal factual amount of money being spent on that project because of the salary of the person working on it. Make sense? So time is quite literally money. It's just a different expression of the same variable. Thus, proper time management is another thing that corporations could use. And that boils down to good management in general. Like, some people ask me how the hell I can do my job because I work like 10-hour days, 7 days a week. And I still have time to work on little projects here and now. And, you know, I'm still pushing through the Cordons project. I'm still trying to work on my story stuff. You know, time management is extremely useful. It's a skill that I legitimately think should be taught in school because they didn't teach me that in school. I learned that from my mom. And it's extremely useful. How many of you guys have spent time wasted at your job? And I want to stress the way I say that, wasted, because that's the important part. I have actually had, let me use a personal example. I've actually had, back when I worked at Montgomery Watson, we had to get together to decide what format we were doing for some kind of pump. And God, I don't remember the specifics. This was literally 20 years ago. But we had to decide the specifics of that. So what we did is we all walked into a room, not the meeting room. We all walked into one of the office sides. And we were all like, hey, listen, so we need to work on this. We need this. Yeah, how about this? Okay, how about this? There's 5, 10, 15 minutes, done. And out we went. We moved on. That was efficient usage of time because we needed to get the group together. We needed to have a meeting. We did. We decided. We moved on. Now, how many of you have spent time at actual office meetings where that doesn't happen? I knew a guy, this is past tense, who would go out of his way to make his presentations as obfuscating as possible because it was his opinion that the people he was giving the presentations to shouldn't have accurate information on the decisions they were making. Because what he wanted was for them to basically hand the decision to him so that he would be able to then say, okay, this is what we need and make the call. So that meant, yeah, the meeting that could have been an email. It's a cliche, but by God, it's a true thing. It is such a true thing. And so he would get up there and he would start presenting and presenting and presenting. And it's not super long. It's only like maybe 10, 15 minutes of this one guy presenting his thing. But that is 10 or 15 minutes that is basically wasted. Gone. Overhead. Excessive overhead. Because now because what he could have done in an ideal circumstance is he could have walked in and said, hey, boss, I've been researching this a lot. Here's what I think we should do. Now, if the boss disagrees, well, that's a problem with the boss, basically, and the dynamic there. But the point is, that was what was being said. That was the actual information he was conveying. You should do what I suggest. And lo and behold, what would usually happen was the boss would say, all right, you go ahead, you made-up name guy. I honestly can't remember his name. I mean, this is just the most obvious waste of time management. How many... I could go into a lot of other categories of wasted time management when it comes to corporate decisions. Especially... No, I actually knew 3 Bobs. Not at that job, but at a separate job. Who all worked there at the same time. No joke. Anyways, I'm sorry. I don't mean to do the bonus rant. I should probably get back to work. Because time management. That is all I've got for today. I mean, you guys want to answer another Tumblr question? Just right at the end here. It's Star Wars related. There's actually 2 of them. Because if you do, I don't mind sharing it. Because otherwise it's gonna wait a week. Because I got other work to do. And make sure you vote on the Kingdom Hearts thing. What is it, DeGaulle? I haven't even looked at it. Alright, sure. Let me get a timestamp then, really quick. Way at the end here. Here's this other question. Oh my god, I've been talking for way too long. So, here's the question. Rook. This is in the EU. The Star Wars EU. There we go. Rook is just been taken out by a competent stormtrooper, allowing Thrawn to survive. How do you think the Battle of Bilbringi would play out? What do you think Thrawn would do in the aftermath? If he manages to conquer the New Republic, what does he do with Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, Akbar, and other heroes? Does he return to the Imperial ways? Does he create a new government with a hybrid of Imperial strength and Republic freedoms? How does he react to the Dark Empire rising? And how does he prepare for the Vong invasion? There's a reason I don't answer these in text. It's like 15 questions in one. Hi, Kay. Welcome to the very end of the stream. Oh. He kills the Skywalkers. No! Personally, yeah, I know, right, Much? Personally, I do think that he would go ahead and win the Battle of Bilbringi. I think he could have turned that around. I think it would have been very difficult, and it would have been a very costly victory, but I do think he could have turned it around. And that probably would have been the decisive concluding battle between them. Now, I don't think he would have gone on to fully conquer the Republic. My opinion. I think it's more likely that Thrawn would have gone ahead and pushed the Republic into a corner and then sued for peace. And said, alright, here's the new map. This is us. That is you. Any questions? I'm also pretty sure he would have ensured that there is a written-in stipulant that means that there would be some kind of coordination between the two forces. And I have a feeling that he would then push a propaganda campaign and try to take as good of care of his own people as he could, because that way that people would see the corruption of the Republic versus the stability of the Empire and... right? In other words, trying to get people to willingly want to leave the Republic in order to join this new Empire. I also think that he would have... I don't think he would have done anything about the heroes. That's not really part of his problem. I do think he would basically form a new form of government based on Imperial ideals. You know, not the corrupt Palpatine-esque thing, but the actual Imperial ideal. As far as the Dark Empire thing, oh, he would absolutely let them keep Coruscant. That would... there's no way in hell he would try to go after Coruscant. At least not immediately. That would be actively stupid. No, he would... the Dark Empire thing... I don't think he would have been loyal to Palpatine or the Dark Empire. If anything, I think he would have been one of the people responsible for putting down the Byssian forces. Just my take on that. As far as the Vong thing, well, we kind of know that he's been kind of going against the Vong since forever, so I'm pretty sure he would then spend the next 30 or so years preparing everyone to be as you know, militarily unified and enforced and, you know, everything as necessary, so that when the Vong showed up, he would have crushed them like a bug. Remember, the Vong really got really lucky, like over and over and over again when they finally invaded. I'm pretty sure that a unified force with Thrawn at its head, prepped for them and ready for them, would have been able to handle the Vong. At that point, well, I'm not sure what would have happened after that, because a lot of Thrawn's life had been about the stability and the Vong, and with both of those accomplished, I have no idea where he'd go next. So that's my answer to that question. Yeah, the Vong also had infiltrators, that's true. A Fiklar ship, excuse me. I agree that Thrawn is overhyped. Even in the original trilogy, he wasn't super smart. The difference was that he was the kind of Imperial leader that, you know, we needed more of, to be perfectly blunt. He was actually interested in doing a good job. Yeah, exactly. He was merely competent. That's another thing. I think under Thrawn we would have more competent people in the Empire. Tales of Vesperia Definitive. You got it. Thank you very, very much, Pretzel. Much appreciated. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. I'll save the other question for next week. I really do need to get working on some other things. So, thank you all for joining me. Apologies for the 2-hour rant. Jesus Christ. I thought Thrawn was pretty good in Outbound Flight. I'll see you guys probably in a week. I still don't think... Right here, let me chop up the local recording.